Imagine sitting in a coffee shop on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, warm cup in hand, a little sunshine through the window, and then, without warning, everything changes. Now, imagine you are Margaret. You are 63 years old. You served this country as a military nurse for 22 years. And the only reason you are sitting in a wheelchair today is because of a roadside bomb in a place most people cannot even find on a map, and three young men laughing and loud have just decided you are an easy target. Stay with me. Because what happened next is the kind of thing that makes you believe in people again. It was a Wednesday morning in September in a small city in North Carolina. The kind of morning where the air still carries that last bit of summer warmth, and the town feels almost sleepy. Margaret Calloway had made it a personal ritual every Wednesday. Without fail, she wheeled herself 3 blocks from her apartment to a little coffee shop called the Corner Mug. It was not fancy. The floors were a little scuffed. The chairs did not quite match. And the menu had not changed since 2008. But the owner, a kind man named Dale, always had her usual ready before she even reached the counter. Black coffee, 1 sugar, and a slice of banana bread. Margaret had served 2 tours overseas as a military nurse. She had held the hands of dying soldiers. She had worked 36-hour shifts in field hospitals where the walls shook from artillery. She was tough in a way that does not need to announce itself. The kind of tough that lives quietly behind kind eyes. The wheelchair had come into her life 4 years ago. A routine supply convoy. An IED buried in the road. She lost feeling in her legs that day, but she never not once lost a feeling in her chest. That deep, stubborn pride in who she was and what she had given. She had her coffee. She had her banana bread. She was reading a paperback novel by the window when the 3 of them walked in. They were young, early 20s, and they carried that particular kind of energy that fills a room the wrong way. Loud, restless, looking for something. They ordered, then drifted toward the tables near the window. One of them, the tallest, wearing a red cap pulled sideways, noticed Margaret. He said something to his friends, low enough that only they could hear. And they laughed. Then he looked at her directly and said, loud enough for the whole shop to hear, "Hey, lady, you know that's a fire hazard, right? That chair blocking the aisle like that?" Margaret glanced around. She was not blocking anything. There was a full 3 feet of space on either side of her wheelchair. She looked back at him calmly and said, "I think we are both doing just fine." He did not let it go. He stepped closer. "Must be nice," he said, gesturing at the chair. "Getting everywhere for free. Disabled parking, government checks, pretty sweet deal." The shop went quiet. Dale, behind the counter, reached for his phone. The 2 other customers, an older couple near the back, shifted uncomfortably. Margaret set her book down on the table, very slowly. She folded her hands in her lap, and she looked at the young man with the kind of patience that comes from having seen things he could not imagine. "Son," she said quietly, "I earned this chair. I hope you never find out how." He laughed. His friends laughed. And he took another step toward her, his voice dropping into something uglier. Not dramatically. Not with a burst of light or a thunderclap. Just the door opened, and 8 men walked in. They were dressed casually, jeans, T-shirts, a couple of them in jackets, but there was something about the way they moved. Calm, deliberate, taking up exactly the right amount of space. You could tell, the moment you saw them, that these were men who had been in rooms far more dangerous than this one. They were Navy SEALs. A team on a 2-day leave pass, stopping for coffee on their way out of Camp Leoing. There was nothing planned about this. Life simply, quietly arranged itself. The man in front, Chief Petty Officer Dan Reeves, 38 years old, broad-shouldered, with a scar along his left jaw that he never talked about, took one look at the scene. He read the room in about 2 seconds. Then he walked calmly over to Margaret's table and sat down in the empty chair across from her. "Mind if we join you, ma'am?" he asked. "Please do," Margaret said. The other 7 men arranged themselves around her. Some pulled up chairs. Some stood easy and relaxed, sipping their coffees. They did not raise their voices. They did not make threats. They simply surrounded her with the quiet, unmistakable presence of people who have spent their lives running toward danger, so others do not have to. The young man in the red cap looked at the 8 men. Then he looked at Margaret. Then he looked at the floor. Dan looked at him just once, and said in a voice so level it was almost kind, "I think you might want to finish your coffee somewhere else today." When the door clicked shut behind them, the coffee shop exhaled. Dale, behind the counter, let out a long breath and started making 8 fresh coffees without anyone asking. The older couple in the back started clapping, softly at first. Then with full hands, Margaret looked at Dan Reeves and said simply, "Thank you." He shook his head. "Thank you for your service, ma'am. We know what you are. You were military nursing 2 tours?" She raised an eyebrow. "How did you know?" He smiled, the first real smile of the whole scene. "Your posture and your coffee order. Black, 1 sugar. That is a field hospital order if I have ever heard one." She laughed. A real laugh, the kind that takes some of the weight off a bad morning. They sat with her 45 minutes. They talked about places they had both been without naming any of them, the way veterans do. They talked about what it feels like to come home and find that home has changed a little while you were gone. They talked about nothing in particular, which was really everything. Before they left, Dan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, worn challenge coin, the kind that military units carry. Personal and meaningful. "We give these to people who remind us why we do what we do," he said. And he placed it gently on the table in front of her. Margaret picked it up, turned it over in her hands, and pressed it to her chest. Here is what stays with me about Margaret's story. She did not need to be rescued. She was already handling it with dignity, with patience, with the kind of grace that only comes from having truly earned it. But here's the thing about human beings at their best. They do not wait to be asked. They see someone facing something they should not have to face alone, and they simply move toward them. Not because they are heroes, not because cameras are rolling, but because something inside them knows. This is what we are here to do. 8 men walked into a coffee shop that morning for caffeine and a quiet hour. They walked out having reminded a woman and everyone in that room that this world still has people in it who will stand up when it counts. Margaret still goes to the corner mug every Wednesday. She keeps the challenge coin in her jacket pocket, right next to her heart, and Dale still has her order ready. Before she reaches the counter, if this story moved you even a little, I want to ask you something. Think of one person in your life who carries something heavy and does it quietly without asking for recognition, without making a fuss. And today, just today, let them know you see them. That is soul relief. That is what this channel is about. If this story meant something to you, please like this video. It genuinely helps more people find these stories. Drop a comment below and tell me, who is your Margaret? Who in your life deserves a table full of good people sitting down beside them? I read every single one of your comments. And subscribe to Soul Relief Stories, because every week I bring you a story just like this one, true, human, and full of the kind of light the world does not always show you. I will see you in the next one.